Ian Churchill, welcome to Creator in Conversation, and thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling great, and thanks for inviting me along. What would you like to talk about first?
It's an interrogation that we're
Yeah, it
beginning.
feels like it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's curious. I was just thinking before, this is technically my second interview with you because many moons back in 2014, we did an interview for the Dublin Comic Con magazine, which was out in the old showroom in Swords, the show centre. And back then, Marineman was just about 4 years old, I think, in around then.
Hmm.
And I was talking to you just about that particular project. Before we
Sure.
were recording, you were saying that there might be more in the future. So I suppose for those who might have missed it, because we were kind of shocked it's been 16 years since
Yeah.
since it began. He's almost old enough to drink, I was saying.
Yeah.
Um, so for those, what's the elevator pitch on Marine Man for new readers who might be looking to hop on ahead of any new stuff that might come?
Elevator pitch. It's kind of a cross between, I guess, Superman and Captain America, but underwater. It's kind of what I kind of would say it's reminiscent of. It's basically an underwater character. With some similarities, I guess, to the Submariner and Aquaman as well, being that he is underwater, but he's not necessarily a superhero. He looks like a superhero. He's a marine biologist that presents TV shows for stuff like Discovery Channel. And something happens during his presentation at one point, and the world at large becomes aware that he can actually breathe underwater. And so the first volume is pretty much dealing with all that and some of the backstory and twists and turns. Um, and then, like you say, that was 16 years ago. Doesn't seem like it, but I've been currently working on volume two as and when I can, um, and I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait till I can finally finish it and get it out. But it's a creator-owned thing, so it's not a paying gig. I have to kind of pretty much do it as and when I get some free time. So I can't really say when the next one's coming out, but it will come out sometime in the next couple of years, I would have thought, if not by
And
the end of this year.
oh, brilliant! And if this is a concept you had for many, many years, going back to the
Hmm,
70s, so
that's
how
right.
is that? How rewarding have you found it to actually? Because when it was released, it was critically acclaimed, it was
Hmm,
Eisner nominated.
yeah.
So how's that been for you in terms of that journey? Because people listening, they might have in the back of their minds, they have a story they want to tell,
Yeah,
but it's as you're saying, big gap between
it
one and
was.
two. So
Yeah.
how's it been like that journey for you?
It's been up and down. I mean, I had no real frame of reference for doing a creator-owned book, really. Um, Prior to doing this, it was mostly me being paid to do. Um, even my uh, Coven series that was published by Awesome Entertainment, and I was getting a wage to do it, so that worked out well. But with Marine Man, I wasn't getting paid to do it. I had to find the money myself to finance it. Luckily, I'd just done Code Red with Jeph Loeb, the Red Hulk thing, and I got paid well for that, plus royalties. So the money I earned from that, I used to finance Marine Man Volume One. And like you say, it was critically acclaimed. I couldn't believe it was at the time. I really thought everybody had the knives out for me as far as writing and drawing. But everybody was very kind and it was well received. But unfortunately, critical acclaim doesn't necessarily translate into sales. It's a bit like Oscar-nominated films. They don't always sort of like light up the box office, do they? Um, so it made money, but it didn't make enough money to carry on doing it on a full-time basis. I always make the joke, my colorist got paid, but I didn't get paid. I made enough money to pay the colorist. Um, but it wasn't a self-sustaining amount of sales. So um, that's why it's taken so long for this next one to eventually see the surface. Um, So yeah, it's the most fulfilling um, project of my life. I mean, like you say, I created it in '77, mostly because I just liked underwater stuff, and around that time, I may well be repeating myself. My dad was saying, "You're never going to get anywhere unless you create your own characters." And it hadn't really occurred to me to create my own characters at the time. Um, and so that's what I did, and that's how Marine Man came about. And he evolved over the years, costume wise as well as concept wise. Um, and it was just something that wouldn't go away. A lot of the comic book creations that I've created over the years that maybe not have seen the light of day. Um, I'm initially really pumped about them, and then they kind of fade into the background. But Marine Man was the one that consistently kept coming back and forcing me to sort of like develop it. And I'm very glad I did. I'm glad also that Richard Starkings used to encourage me to sort of like, I put myself on the chopping block basically and get it published. And he was very encouraging um, and helpful as well in the production because he did all the lettering for me on volume one. And he had nothing but good things to say about Image, so I went with Image, and it worked out well. Um, so yeah, it's there's a lot of hurdles to jump really to doing a creator-owned book. It's not easy, um, and my hat goes off to anyone that does it on a consistent basis. Because it's tough. It really is tough. You've got to find your audience. You've got to, especially if you're in the position I was in, I had to write it, draw it, color some of it as well, and uh, and promote it as well. And at that time, I didn't realize just quite what a mammoth task the promotional side of producing a comic book was. Coming round for the second time, I'm far more. To grips with it, I would say. I was kind of sort of like shooting in the dark before, and now I know what to expect. So I think it might be a little, not necessarily easier, but a little bit um,
Familiar.
less difficult,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
for
it's
lack of a
amazing
better
though.
word or
A lot
phrase.
of it though is the almighty algorithm, to be honest with you, particularly now.
Mm,
Like I've realized that and just even with the Academy and the podcast, everything has to
mm,
be a particular word, a particular hashtag, and that's like
yeah,
80% of your working day is on the publicity almost.
yeah,
But it's a unique specimen with Marineman that you are doing so much of the like when people say creator owned, it typically translates as they have a creator stake they share with partners. But you're literally, writing, drawing
yeah.
everything into it as well.
I'm a
Um,
one-man band.
this is how like your man from Mary Poppins almost.
Come on, blimey, Mary Poppins.
So, what's your schedule like onto that when you ramp up? Because at the moment you're taking your time with volume two, so you're pacing yourself. You know what's coming around the corner when you do have it all ready to go. Do you work to like a production schedule then, or a convention schedule, like when this comes out when it comes to release? And are you considering going back to image with it, or might you take on a more of a crowdfunding component? Because that was something which wasn't as prevalent at the time
Yeah, it
when the
wasn't.
initial one came out. Yeah.
That's true. I haven't really made a concrete decision yet.
Mm.
It's crowdfunding, like you say, wasn't the most prevalent thing back when I did Marine Man the first time round. Um, so I've heard good things about it, and also, the fact it's even more work as well,
Yeah.
because you've got all these incentives that you've got to sort out and mail out to people and as well. So. Um, it's something I'm going to have to give some serious thought to. If Image were happy to publish it again, I'd certainly be inclined to let them. Um, uh, But what was the question again? I've gone
Oh
off on
no,
a train of thought.
no, I was just saying, just in terms of like scheduling
Oh,
and
scheduling.
and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so when I was doing the first one, I think I had maybe two issues under my belt,
Mhm.
and then it started getting published, and I found myself really sort of scrabbling to catch up and keep going to hit the deadlines for when they were solicited. So I think the parameters have changed somewhat at Image lately, or over the last few years. I think you have to have about four issues complete and ready to go before they even think about publishing, because they don't want anybody to fall behind or any dates to be missed. That's my understanding,
Mhm.
anyway. Um, so I think I will probably get all of the issues done beforehand this time round, just so that there's nothing that can throw me off track. Because I do remember the last issue of the first series. Um, I was really going like the clappers at the end and
Mhm.
colouring and inking and doing everything. Luckily Richard was lettering it, but and producing it as well. Him and Comicraft were putting it all together for me so that it could go off to the printer. But we were both down to the wire at the very last, issue of that. Um, and it needed extra pages as well. I remember that because the story, I just couldn't condense the story enough to um, fit it into a regular sized issue, not without compromise. So I just added extra pages, and I think, if I remember rightly, the interiors went onto the back page because I just needed that extra page to finish it off. But it worked out well in the end, and I was very lucky that I got Dave Gibbons to do the foreword in the collected edition in the trade paperback, which was very good of him. Um,
Oh yeah.
so that was a scheduling question, wasn't it? Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's great to see because, like, again, it's kind of from a consumer point of view, we always look at it when it's on the shelf. We go, and then our main thing is order from the catalog, order from the shop.
mm,
But then, so the little things behind how it's made. And it's curious to hear everyone's approach to it because some
yeah,
people are like night owls. They're like, we've had people here
I am.
speak, and they're
Yeah,
like, they work odd hours because they like having their day free, and then
yeah,
others, it's very much like a 9 to 5, and um,
yeah.
I
Not for
was.
me. For me, it takes a long time. I work all day, and when I was working on that and other projects as well, you've got to get a page a day done. And
Mhm.
if I'm working, luckily for me, Marine Man was drawn in the style that I'm comfortable drawing in, which is kind of cartoony, I guess. I always used to say it was like Disney on steroids because it's kind of how it feels to me. But when I'm drawing like that, I can draw faster. When I draw in that sort of highly detailed Marvel DC house style that they used to like so much. That takes me a lot longer. So I could be working sort of till 2 or 3 in the morning and then up at 9 and doing it all the way through again, day after day, 7 days a week sometimes, just to, make sure the pages were done. Um, so yeah, schedules and time it takes to draw the physical thing. And sometimes, you've got to get the storytelling right, and if it's not working and you've got to get that page done, you just got to put in the hours it takes to do it, really.
Mhm.
There's no otherwise, if you fall behind and you get late, that just makes everyone angry.
Mhm.
And it's not professional, to be fair, either.
And
So
what's the physical toll of the work like for you as well? Because I was speaking previously with Stephen Mooney, and I was just saying to him, like, because I know myself, even the way I'm sitting right now is probably appalling. But when you're working on a page, it's like you
yeah.
notice. I notice I'm getting like cement mixer wrists going on, and a creak in the neck and all. Is there much? Because it's a more than people might scoff at this, but I'm finding the more I go professional and stuff, it's a very physically demanding job as well
It
as the
is.
deadline. Yeah, so how have you found that? Like, have you adapted? You mentioned different styles and approaches you've
Yeah.
adapted. Is there anything there that you said you've learnt maybe the hard way over like how to improve upon
Yeah.
the ergonomics.
Well, I do try and keep fit if I can,
Mhm.
purely because it is such a sedentary lifestyle. Drawing comics, you're just sitting in one position, probably like you say, probably normally the wrong position. Um, so I tend to go for a swim each day if I can, because I don't live too far from the sea. So I'll go down for a swim. I do a few push-ups. That is pretty much my keep fit regime, I
Mhm.
guess you'd call it. But it has sort of like helped, I think, because like you say, it is it doesn't seem like it would be a tough physical gig drawing comics,
Yeah,
but it can be. There's, sometimes you have to get into positions,
yeah.
to see what you want to draw and things to make sure everything's working. Um, and like we were just saying, the physical toll on the long hours, that's another pressing factor. Um, and also, I guess, getting older, because what am I, 57 next month? Um, my eyesight's not what it was. Um, so I tend to work digitally more these days, and that's helped a lot because in the past, I remember working traditionally. If you get hot, for example, and you're drawing a page, your hand will sometimes smudge the pencil line and things like it's things you don't think about. Well, when I went digital, it didn't have to worry about that. And as far as getting proportions right, I didn't have to put on five sets of spectacles to go back, go forth, and all that. Now I can just zoom in and zoom out with one set of glasses. So there's a lot of uh, plus points for going digital. I flip back and forth between digital and traditional. Um, but physically, traditional comic book art put more of a strain on me than digital comic book art, if that makes any sense. I
No, no,
think,
absolutely. No, it's great to hear because one of the, particularly here at the academy with the students, one of the first questions we get is students are concerned about, do I have to go digital? Can I go traditional? And I'm surprised by the number of applicants that we get who say, "Oh, I was turned down because I wasn't doing using these materials." And I'm like, "It's crazy because like no editor will turn you away as
no,
long as you
if
can
if
like."
if you can do the job and you can do it to a deadline, doesn't matter what materials you're using, doesn't matter whether you're digital. You could be doing it with coffee. As long as you can, you know, dip a brush in a pot of coffee and make a line on a piece of paper and get it done on time to a sufficient standard. That's all an editor will care about. If you're making an editor's life easier, then you're worth your weight in gold. Because if they know they can trust you and you can get the work done when it's supposed to be done, that's more important than drawing prettily or drawing dynamically. You've got to have elements of that to get the gig in the first place, but it's far more important to be easy to work with and reliable, I would say.
And early on in your career, what was among your first break-ins, as it were, into the industry? Like, how did you always intend comics as the path you wanted to take, or did that reveal itself? Did you make a
Yeah,
beeline for it?
I always wanted to do it. I always loved superheroes. And you back in the 70s, late 70s, the only way of getting, a superhero fix was in comics.
Mhm.
I loved comics ever since I was a kid. From about sort of like six, I was reading and buying comics, I think. Um, but on TV, you had like Spider-Man and the Hulk, I guess, Wonder Woman, and the Batman TV series from the 60s. Um, but that was about it. So comics for me drew me in because it was my superhero fix. And yeah, I always wanted to draw comics. Once I realized that somebody actually did that, because to me as a kid, I was reading the comic and it felt like I was watching a movie, in my head. It didn't feel like I was reading a comic. And even now, if I've read a comic and I remember back, I don't remember panels generally. I remember the story and the way it flowed, and it feels like a movie to me. Um, so once I realized that someone sits in a room and actually draws these things, I thought, oh, that's what I want to do because I always liked drawing as well, um, ever since I was small. And that from a really early age, all I ever wanted to do was draw for Marvel. That was my goal, and I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that that would be what I would be doing as an adult. Is drawing superhero comics. And then, you get to school, and I was one of the ones that was the best in the class, at drawing and stuff at school. And of course, nobody likes that, so they start having a go and taking a crack at you and sort of like put you down a peg and all this sort of thing. And I left school, and I still wanted to draw comics, but I had pressure from my parents to get a real job. Um, so I did graphic design for about 7 years after school. I did an apprenticeship, and then there was a big recession, and I eventually lost my job, and I had nothing to lose. And there was a convention in London. I think it was one of the UCAT ones, and over a weekend prior, I did a few sample pages of a Captain America story that I wrote, um, and made sure that I had sequential play pages as well. That was a thing because I'd seen in some interview somewhere that that's what people like to see editors wise. So I went up to this convention and got in line, and I was just very lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right sort of style. Um, and I pretty much got hired on the spot. I was, 23. They gave me a fake assignment to see if I could hit deadlines, which I don't know if they do that anymore, but they did for me. Um, and then the first published work I had, I think, was backup strip in the X-Men annual with the Beast, which was always one of my favorite characters anyway. So it was just like ding, 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 ding. It was like win, 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 win for me. Um, I couldn't believe my luck, and that's how I broke in. But I did put myself in the right place at the right time, and made the effort to do the best sequential work I could. Yeah, I guess it was pretty much a work-based deadline schedule, I guess. I gave myself 2 or 3 days and I did 2 or 3 pages. So, I didn't plan it like that. That's just how it worked out. Because before you get hired, you got all the time in the world, haven't you? But once you get that gig, you've got to get a page done every day. That's when it gets tough. Um, because it's easy to dream about these things, but when you put it into practice, it's never quite as easy as you always thought it would be. It can be rewarding, but it's always a lot more hard work than most people give it credit for.
The self-motivation definitely has to be there. That's the one thing. Like
Mm,
a lot of people, prior to the academy, I was teaching in animation, and a lot of people would come and say, "Oh, I would love to animate. I would love to draw," and I always ask for a portfolio piece. And obviously, they're coming to learn, so we're not expecting a very refined or extensive portfolio. In some cases,
yeah.
I'll even accept photography or filmography
Hmm.
as a portfolio because it's just showing you're self-focused, self-motivated.
Yeah.
And as you were describing there, it kind of had echoes off we were speaking to Mark Russell a couple of weeks ago. And he was kind of saying like an element of luck almost. And we
Mm,
had another gentleman, Johnston Inchie, who came and spoke to us, and he walked in, he'd done a Hawkeye comic from scratch, just off the cuff, and he went in to present it, and he got hired on the spot because there's a gap in the schedule,
mm.
and people think, oh well, that's luck, but it's really not. It's that you're prepared, you've put the work in, and what is luck if it's not like preparation meeting opportunity? But if you're not prepared, you don't meet the opportunity.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
But that's amazing. And then obviously we were just speaking briefly before the recording. I was saying I was listening to Rob Liefeld's podcast,
Hmm.
Observations, and he's mentioning obviously with the 90s were something of a big deal for Rob in his career. But he mentioned yourself saying that there used to be a house where a lot of his was it where Awesome Comics was at that stage, am I correct? Or was
Yeah,
that
it's awesome comics. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and what was that like? Because obviously you've gone from based in the UK, graphic designer, then hired to do backups, then, the X-Men, then suddenly, later on, you're now, fast forward to the 90s, you're in the USA, the home of
Mm,
comics, around like so many of these other creators as well. What was
mm.
the, US comic scene in the 90s like? What was that kind of a experience for you?
I enjoyed it,
Mhm.
frankly. I don't really have any frame of reference because I never did anything for the UK market.
Mhm.
And for a very long time, majority of readers thought that I was American because I'd only ever worked in American comics. And they were always very surprised when I did shows over there that I had a British accent. Um, so as far as entering into that kind of sphere, I guess after the my initial hiring, I some of it dried up slightly. The work dried up, and I went to New York with my brother for a holiday. Uh, like a city break sort of thing,
Mhm.
and I did some more sample pages. I did some DC ones, and I did some more Marvel ones. And I figured, seeing as I was over there anyway, I may as well um, go and sort of remind them that I'm still around. Um, so I went up to the Marvel offices, and I hadn't made any appointments or anything. I just showed up. You probably couldn't do it these days, but I did that, and I kind of, went into reception and said who I was. Can I see Bob Harris, who was the editor?
Mhm.
Um, and there was a little bit of a pause, and then yeah, and they buzzed me up, and I went up and said hello. Um, and then I got passed around the offices, and eventually ended up in Suzanne Gaffney's office, I think it was. Um, and that's when I got the Deadpool gig. So I was sitting there chatting to her, and there were all these gorgeous Carlos Pacheco pages from the Bishop limited series on her desk. And I was thinking, I'm never going to get any more work because I was looking at all this and thinking, bloody hell, I don't match up to Carlos. Um, but she said, there's this Deadpool thing. Do you want to do that? And I said, yeah, love to. So from then onwards, I had sort of like project after project, and that worked out well. And then we got to the Heroes Reborn thing, and I was working on that, and the opportunity arose to do the Coven with Awesome Comics because Jeph had just started working with Rob, and Jeph said you should show Rob this because he might be interested in publishing it. So I did. Rob liked it, and that's how I got into that sort of like ecosphere, I guess you'd call it, the 90s kind of image boom type thing. I was on the very tail end of it, but it was a fun time. Um, and so I was, sort of like drawing a group of characters that I created when I was 17, professionally. Getting paid for it and doing all these shows and hanging out with, comic book rock stars, I guess you'd call it, Rob and Jim and um, Eric and the others. And I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. It was pinch me, I must be dreaming sort of thing. And you were talking about Rob's house. He had this great house, really cool house. And I was thinking to myself, this is all because of comic books. He has this fantastic house, had a tennis court, it had a swimming pool, had a little turret, with a 360-degree view at the top, which is where I'd sit at the drawing board and draw covers and interiors and what have you, pretty much whatever Rob wanted me to do. There was a cover he drew of Cable bent down on one knee with some sort of staff that looked like it had a feather on the top. He brought that up to me. He said, "Can you ink this?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I sat up there and inked that. And I remember I was up in the turret when I inked that. Um, but it was just one of those, pinch me, I must be dreaming type scenarios, really. I was going from show to show with him and others. Um, and it was just a bit of a whirlwind. I remember bits of it very clearly, but I don't have the greatest memory in the world. Um, However,
Yeah,
a lot of that does still stand in my brain, and I can recall a lot of it.
that's brilliant. It's just amazing to to hear from because there's a big not renaissance, but it's obviously the 90s now. We're talking 30 years. It's
Yeah,
kind of it's so obviously for I'm trying to think now when I started reading comics, we're going back to the like if you were a reader of comics in the 90s, it's now where the Silver Age was in the 60s.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of that generational jump. And you
But it,
mentioned like
I think when it comes to 90s style, everybody goes on about the 90s style, and I don't think it was necessarily a 90s drawing style
Mhm.
because, essentially Rob's artwork hasn't changed since then, neither has Jim's to a certain degree. It's all, lots of sharp, hard lines and cross-hatching, and it looks cool, but I don't think that that is the 90s style. I think the 90s style is the costume designs more than the
Mhm.
actual execution of the artwork, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's all the pouches and that's all very 90s and the big shoulder pads and stuff. And that was prevalent on any character that you'd come across in the 90s, wasn't it? And then that all went away. But the actual drawing styles, I don't think date.
Mhm.
Rob's style is Rob's style, Jim's style is Jim's style. It may sort of fluctuate here and there, but it's remained, consistent throughout the decades. And it still looks as cool today as it did back then. So I don't think it's necessarily a 90s style, that particular style. My style, I never really settled on one. When I got into comics, I was heavily encouraged to draw like Jim, as a lot of other people were, because that's what was selling. And I kind of almost made a rod for my own back in that case because what I was doing was being well received, I had to keep doing it, or I felt like I had to keep doing it. I always admired people like Tim Sale, who found his own style, even though it didn't fit the general house style, and stuck with it. Um, the only reason I had the confidence to abandon my highly detailed style and do Marine Man was literally because I had a problem with my shoulder, and I had to have an operation, and it was taking a while to heal. It really hurt, and then Jeph came along and said, "Do you want to do this Red Hulk story? Because Ed needs a breather." I was really hesitant to do it because I hadn't drawn anything since my operation, not properly. I'd done some turnarounds for DC, which kept some money coming in, but not interiors or anything. And so I was really reluctant, and he was over in the UK, and he said, "Come up and see me." So I went up to London, and he said, "You got to do it. You got to do it." He can be quite persuasive, Jeff. And he pulled out these gorgeous pages by Arthur Adams of the Wendigo in a casino in Vegas or something with the Red Hulk. And I thought, oh, that's gorgeous. Anyway, he kept sort of like poking me and saying, you should do it. I said, okay. Eventually, I said I'd do it, and I was initially drawing it in the detailed style that I've been known for, and it was really hurting my shoulder. So we had a conversation, the editor, Mark Benicia, and me and Jeph. Um, and ultimately we decided if it wasn't going to be as painful if I drew the way I like drawing, the way that's more natural to me, um, then that would be fine. So I drew the remainder of the book in a more Marine Man-esque style, and it went over quite well. It didn't suffer anything from loss of sales or anything because the style had changed. So that kind of gave me the sort of confidence that I needed, confidence boost to really apply that to Marine Man when I came to do Marine Man. Um, I can't remember what your original question was now. I think I might have gone off
No,
on a
no, this
tangent.
is no, this is all brilliant as well. No, no, because that absolutely not, because this is like amazing just
And that
to
and,
hear
and
about
that
it.
might have been repetitive strain injury on my shoulder. I don't know what caused that, but
Oh,
and
wow.
I also had a spur of bone as well, which had to be
Ooh.
ground down. It was very painful, um, and it was on my drawing arm. So it's just like it was a bit worrying at the time, but ultimately it all worked out well in the end. Yeah, and I'm fine these days. It's
Oh, that's brilliant to hear. Yeah, yeah. No, it's amazing. Like, it's great to hear that you're doing so much better with it. And it's also really encouraging to hear that editorial had your back when
they
you faced
did,
those
yeah,
difficulties. Because sometimes you hear the horror stories of it, like the industry is like a bit of a grind. And, if you're
yeah,
not available for sometimes people are afraid to say no because they think, oh, that book's
yeah,
not going to come back around. But in this, it
yeah.
sounds like great editorial support. So that's wonderful to hear.
Well,
Um,
to be fair, as well, I never considered comics as a career. It
mhm.
was always a job for me, and I always expected it to end, at the drop of a hat, because it's the nature of the beast, isn't it? It's the same with musicians. They may have a couple of top 10 hits and then they fade away into obscurity, and I kind of expected my sort of like um, journey into comics to be a bit like that, and it never did. It kind of kept going, and it became almost a career by accident. I just went from job to job to job, thinking, "Oh, that'd be fun," or "That'd be fun," or "Let's try this, let's try that." And I was just very fortunate that every project I worked on did well and was received well. So eventually, just the nature of doing one job after another turned into a career. And I look back now, and I've been in comics now 35 years, and I've had consistent work,
Mhm.
pretty much since that Deadpool miniseries. Um, so, there's no rhyme or reason with comics. You've just got to keep doing the best you can and go with your gut, generally speaking, I think.
How have you been finding the a lot of these characters now appearing on the big screen? Like obviously we had Red Hulk last summer. You've also had experience with
That
Supergirl.
was
That's
so
great.
cool, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it was yeah, it was good.
Oh, I
And
loved
Harrison
every
Ford no
minute of
less to
that.
play him. That's pretty
That was
like
so cool. I mean, as a movie, as a whole movie, it was good, but that last sort of like quarter of it was just brilliant. The smackdown with the Red Hulk and Captain America, that was just fantastic. That was just like a little fanboy's dream come true. I love comics. I love superheroes, and that I was just like that was terrific.
do you ever get any looped in with any of the Hollywood adaptations at all? Like, because having worked on them previously, would any of the studios reach out now and again, or if just maybe one of the creators might be using some of your work as a
No,
reference, or you just
yeah, I've been to a couple of movie premieres because
Mhm.
of, having been working on characters, which was fun. The which one was it? The Superman one with Brandon Routh.
Oh, cool.
I went to the premiere of that in London. Um, I went to the Man of Steel premiere actually with Jonathan. Jonathan invited me to that, so
Oh,
that was
cool.
that was fun. Um, and what else? There was a statue of Supergirl that DC did once, and it was obviously based on one of the drawings
Oh,
that
cool.
I drew on my Supergirl run, but I never got any credit for that.
Oh,
That always
oh no.
irritated me. That did. But aside from those two movies, I haven't been to anything else that's sort of like a perk of the job. I don't think
Yeah.
that you call it, or nothing that I can recollect at the moment. Um, I do like being invited to stuff like that. It's great. Um,
Yeah, it's
uh,
fun to see. As you were saying, it's like it's the fanboys is a dream seeing a lot of this stuff translated on screen. I think towards the well, it must have been about when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films were coming out that Brian Michael Bendis is saying Stan Lee was just amazed that finally technology was catching up for the
yeah,
imagination, that it wasn't like
yeah,
cheap rubber suits
yeah.
hanging from a
No,
string.
no, quite. I tell you what, though, actually, I am kind of secretly hoping that they do something with Red She-Hulk because obviously I was one of the co-creators of Red She-Hulk, and I was the first person to draw her professionally as well. Um,
Right.
so I'm kind of hoping that if they do something with her, that I might get an invite to whatever premiere it is.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
that'd be
Um,
great.
that would be really cool. Yeah.
And we have like Secret Wars now coming up and everything else. So, at the time, you never know. It seems
It
every
could
day there's an
happen. It could
announcement.
happen. Yeah.
And you mentioned just Jonathan Ross there as well.
Hmm.
Obviously, you guys worked together on Revenge. And how,
And
so
that,
how
how long ago was that now? That's like 12 years ago. It's got to
that would
be.
have been, I think it must have been around 2014 because we would have spoken then. So Marineman was
Yeah.
2010. So yeah, about 12 years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's blinking, you miss it.
It is. Yeah. Time just goes by like that, doesn't it? It's crazy. That was a fun time. I really enjoyed working with Jonathan. I mean, it was a completely batshit crazy story. I loved it. Loved it. Um, and yeah, I'd quite happily do something else with him if he ever wanted to.
Do you
Um,
guys keep in touch still?
we do, yeah, yeah. He loves Halloween and I love Halloween, so we always chat around Halloween. Um, and occasionally I've been up and sort of like hung out for an afternoon and just catched up, caught up, I
Mhm.
suppose you'd say. Caught up, yeah, not catched up. Caught up with him. Yeah, but I don't know whether his focus is still on doing another comic anytime soon. I don't know what he's thinking, but I would imagine his day job takes up the majority of his time. So
Yeah, he had
uh,
a good ramp up period there. He had
yeah,
Tough and he had America's Got Powers as well as
that's
eventually had
right.
it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's but yeah, it's great to see someone else as well who was obviously a
He
passionate
is
fan.
so passionate about
Mhm.
comics. There's two people that I've met in my life that are just so passionate and so into comics, more than me. And I always thought I was pretty into comics, but Jonathan and Rob are the two
Mhm.
that are just so into comics. Um, and they retain all the information in their heads about comics as well. I've got a pretty good database of comic book knowledge, but they're just like on a next level, as from my perspective. Um, they just love comics.
As you
It's
mentioned them both, it'd be really interesting to see them interview each other. That would be really
mm,
it'd be like
that would be
grandmasters at
great.
chess.
Because Rob's so enthusiastic all the time. Oh my gosh, this happened and this happened and that. And Jonathan's kind of similar in a different way. And yeah, you're right. It would be quite the interview, I think. Yeah.
And with regards to cover work as well, because you were saying that you're doing a fair bit of cover work as well. And I think the
Hmm.
advice you gave earlier about the sequentials, that is definitely very valid advice to this day for to the students. We say, prepare your sequentials. If you have like a sample, a self-published book as well, try and,
Mm,
put that together because the editors can see from the
totally.
whole production pipeline.
They need to see the storytelling. Storytelling is the most important thing in comics. If you can't follow the story without any word balloons, then you're not doing your job. You've got to sort of like knuckle down and master storytelling. Like I said, it doesn't matter how pretty you draw, as long as you can follow from start to finish the story, um, preferably without any captions, then you've done your job well. I didn't mean to hijack your next question.
No,
You
no, no,
just,
no,
you
no.
just You know,
No, no, that's
but
brilliant.
that is so important in comics. It is so important because a lot of people they love the characters and they like drawing, and all they want to do is like the pin-up pose all the time. And as fun as it is, that's not the job. You know, the job is telling the story and getting from A to B in the most dynamic, efficient way you can, generally speaking. Um, and that is so important. And if you can't do that, chances are you know, as much as you try, you're never going to break in. You need to be able to do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And
Yeah,
what's curious, what brought me onto this train of thought was, we get a lot of students. I even see them at conventions doing portfolio reviews who are like they want to go straight into comic book cover art, so they want to be a
yeah,
cover artist exclusively. And to the best of my knowledge, and I could be wrong here, but I think that's a very rare thing to be able to translate straight into covers, particularly if you're new and upcoming,
yeah.
because you've yet to proven yourself. The cover's the commercial touch point, it's the
Mm.
first thing the customer would see. So, what would you say to anyone who might be aspiring to, as you who are a seasoned professional working on covers, what would you say if someone's ambition is, well, I want to do covers more so than the sequentials? Would you
Yeah.
advise them to expand the horizons?
I think these days the landscape's changed a bit. I
Mhm.
think you can, for example, with social media, you can build such a following just doing one-off images
Mhm.
now that you can kind of you can transpose that to comics. So you know, and you by doing that, I guess you could become a cover artist generally, you know, straight off the bat. I I can't think of any instances off the top of my head where that's
Mhm.
happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has happened.
Mhm.
Um, because what the things you can do these days with digital art is, I mean, we're not going to go down the AI route or anything. We're not going to, yeah. But people that have, you know, mastered drawing just one-off pictures, I guess there is a place of getting into comics just being a cover artist, like you say. Um, I don't know how easy it would be. You'd have to. I think with social media, I think that is probably the most direct route, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can just put those images in front of editors, and if they can see that you've got the skill level to create a cover and know when to leave space for the logo and this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
then I can see that there is a route in that way now. It
It's
wasn't like that in the old days, but certainly more so these days. And with the amount of variant covers, if there's like someone who has that sort of following online and has got the necessary skill set, I can't see why it wouldn't be an option.
Yeah, the social media aspects are really interesting because we've been fortunate to have a couple of editors join us on the podcast. And one is a senior editor at Titan, David Leach, and he was saying that the social media following is a consideration in the hiring process because that's potential customers conversion. They know it
Yeah,
won't be a one-to-one, but there's definitely possibility of traction. I know
yeah,
we had Thomas Healy, the editor-in-chief at Todd McFarlane Productions, and he was saying, well, that wouldn't be the deciding factor, but it would be. But he was saying that Todd McFarlane himself does scroll through social media and try to not deliberately go out, but if he finds talent, be it known or unknown, he would pass
yeah,
it on. And it is the person might not be even aware that he's scrolling through,
sure.
but it just putting it out there. For yourself, Ian, do you do much in the way of social media, like in terms of posting frequently, or do you keep like a blog, anything like that? Are you more?
No, no, I'm not big on social media. I probably should be. Certainly when the next Marine Man's due to come out, I think I'll have to learn how to use it a bit more savvily. But as it stands, I've got an Instagram account. I've never posted anything on it. I just did it because, you know, everybody else was doing it, and I follow Jeph Loeb on that because he's not on Facebook or anything. Um, but I do have a Facebook page. And I post things semi regularly, but it's only work related stuff on my Facebook page because I wouldn't say I was a private person, but I like to keep myself to myself, I guess. Um, and you know, frankly, I don't think it's interesting that I've just been down, the local restaurant and taken a picture of my food. I mean, who the hell cares about that? But if I draw a picture, I'll post it on my Facebook page, and I don't really care if people do likes or not. It's more a case of just for my own satisfaction. But if I get a number of likes and well done, Ian. I'm human. I do like that. Um, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter whether people like it or not. It's just the fact that I've done it and it's out there, um, generally speaking, and it helps promote, whatever it is I've just been drawing. Um, for whichever company it happens to be. Yeah. Social media is a weird old thing, and I'm still kind of getting to grips with it, really. Um,
Same here. It's an interesting beast because like I would post something and I have to do more video. Even this podcast is an extension of it, but it's like
mm,
if you haven't got it, it's message in the bottle, try it out to see.
mm,
You just don't know who's going to pick up. But if you don't even have it, then the chances are even less so. And then all it takes is for just the one bit to hit, strike a chord with an audience,
yeah,
and next thing the rest fall into place like
yeah,
dominoes almost. But it is,
yeah,
I see people, I don't know how they have the energy, but they basically record themselves drawing, then you have to go in, speed that
yeah,
up, edit it, upload
yeah,
it. I know that's a whole other job, but the way they see it is, well, I'm gonna do it anyway. I think I can understand photographs, like
mm,
taking it before and after, but a whole
mm,
video is like, my God, it takes a while, even with the
yeah.
advances in technology. But strange
I
new
mean, I
world,
mean,
I
and
suppose.
fair play to people that
Oh
do
yeah,
that. I'm
100%.
not knocking it at all. It's just something that I personally have never really gotten to grips with. And as far as filming while drawing, I think that's a valuable asset to anybody that's, trying to break in or wants to become a professional. Because, if you go onto YouTube and you can see someone doing that, that is invaluable. You can pick up so many nuances with of the craft, really. I have watched a couple of these draw along things that Jim's done, and I don't know how he does it really, because he's yakking away, chatting, chat, and fielding social media comments coming down one bit while drawing at the same time and drinking a cup of coffee. I mean, he's multitasking all. I don't think I could multitask like that. I could do one or the other, but not
We we
all in
had
conjunction.
we had Anthony Marquise from the Joe Kubert School, the president of Joe Kubert School last year, pay a visit, and we did a live demo class. And we were like, okay, if he's going to draw, the audience needs to see. So we place a camera
Mm,
onto the table and put it into projector. And you would
mhm.
think that would be straightforward enough, but then there's the camera would shake when you're on the
Mm,
table and then the focus. And then I'm like, wow, this really does take more than you think than just press the button. So like, yeah, as you were saying, fair play to them, those who can
yeah,
have that capacity. And this goes to show now what's another tool to have in the arsenal. There's a lot in the way of
yeah,
transferable skills. You mentioned you had a graphic design background, like worked as a
yeah,
graphic designer
yeah.
beforehand. So, and you also saying that like comics to you was always like a job more than a career, like initially how you looked at
Mm.
it. So would you say that, you are happy to have that transferable skill? Like if comics were to dry up tomorrow, then would you see like, yeah, I still have this skill to slot
Yeah,
back in?
yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I like design, as it
Mhm.
turned out. It wasn't something that occurred to me, but I managed to get an apprenticeship at a design studio and learnt on the job. And it was kind of, I had an affinity for typography and layout, probably to a degree because of the amount of comics I'd read over the years. But I did find that it naturally came to me. And I kind of enjoyed doing it. So even when I got into comics, I still kept my hand in. I'd do, a few sort of design jobs on the side. You talking about the Revenge with Jonathan. I did the logo design, and some stuff. And Marineman, that was my logo design and the layout for the cover and everything. That was all me. Um, and so occasionally I'll dip my foot back in the water as far as design goes. It does help, I think, to not put all your eggs in one basket. So you do have, different avenues you can explore if one dries up slightly. Um, so yeah, there is that kind of I guess that's work ethic, really, isn't it? It's just making sure that you've got somewhere you can pull from all the time, so that it is generally, I guess, what has helped make a career for me because you can't bank on a career when you're self-employed, which the majority of comic book artists are. You don't get any health benefits. You don't get any of the things you get from a regular salary paycheck. So you have to look at things from a job to job basis, and it's just being fortunate to get job after job that does build a career. You can't look at comics and think that's going to be a career for me because you just don't have that security aspect of it, really. You could hope for the best, but it's one of those things. If for example, you could go and work at IBM and pretty much be secure and safe in the knowledge that you're going to be at IBM for 30 years and get a decent pension. You can't do that with comic books. It's far more um what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a gamble, but it's an educated
Yeah.
guess
Yeah,
work, I
it's
would
more of a
say.
forecast, yeah. You
Yeah,
just you don't
that's
know
it.
what's around
That's
the corner.
exactly what I meant. Yeah, a forecast. Yeah. And you can't always get the forecast right. It's like a weather forecast, isn't it? You do your best, but occasionally you get the old Michael Fish moment, and it could go completely wrong, And you pick yourself up and try and keep pushing forward.
No, listen, this has been amazing. Like, thanks so much, Ian, for everything, like for reconnecting. I think one of my very first comic convention panels was with yourself and the late Alan Grant as well, I think was with us as
Okay.
well
Yeah,
onto that
yeah,
one. So that was
yeah.
amazing. And as I said, we interviewed for Dublin Comic Con magazine. So
Mm.
hopefully when Marineman 2 is good to go, we'll be able to reconnect again. It'd be
Yeah,
great to pick back up.
yeah.
And this
Quite.
has been wonderful, very insightful, and it was great, as I said, just to reconnect. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing your time.
But like I said as well, it's kind of, I don't know whether I can put any sort of pearls of wisdom forward when you've had all these luminaries on the show already that are far more eloquent than me and have better understanding of the art form, I guess.
Oh
I
man,
mean,
this has been great. I don't sell yourself so short. This has been great. The people
oh,
who've been listening to this will be definitely like, because you're a valued practitioner of the art, and be able to basically make your livelihood off it. Any
mm,
conversations, it's important for those listening to know, like, the road is difficult. As you were saying, like, you were
mm,
prepared when opportunities came
yeah,
up. As you mentioned, the work will dry up and come back, and that's the recurring theme that we've noticed. No matter how big a
mm.
name someone is, everyone, even it's funny, we had Paul Kupperberg, we had Paul Levitt both on,
Okay.
and both of them were saying the fact that they were in New York and they could just walk into the office, and you're like the third or fourth person to say about
Hmm.
walking in. So the physical connection, the world's changed now, even though
Yes.
we can travel more, but we can connect more digitally. But the
Yeah.
world's changing from that. But as you were saying, the social media aspect, the keeping your deadlines, the work ethic, this is really value. And like you're living proof that, you wouldn't be where you are today
Mm.
if that didn't hold value. So no, absolutely, man. It's
Yeah,
been
it
really,
can be done. It's not impossible, and even if you think you're banging your head up against a brick wall, you just need that one yes somewhere. And as long as you've got your stuff ready to go, your samples or whatever, you just need that foot in the door, and it could happen. I was just lucky, right place, right time, with the right set of credentials, and it's been the same for other people as well. Um, there's no right way or wrong way of getting into comics. You just find your way somehow. And everybody's approach is different, I think. And what works for someone doesn't necessarily work for someone else. But if you want it badly enough and you've got the right look or skill set, then it's not impossible. It's the same with being an actor or being a musician, isn't it? It's a it's a landscape that everybody wants to do, regardless of the level of skill that they have. Majority of karaoke people want to be pop stars. But they find their happy medium doing karaoke. But there's always a way in if you've got what it takes. You just got to find it, and it's not easy. And I'm
Absolutely.
I'm rambling now. I'm
No, no,
rambling.
no. This
I
is all.
can
It's all pills of wisdom, man.
it's not.
Well, don't worry.
I
We'll
wish
also
it
have
was.
if and if anyone wants to see you post your dinner on Instagram, let us know in the comment section, and we'll relay back to you. No, this is brilliant. Thanks again, Ian. This is fantastic. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're welcome. You're welcome.